Shalom, how's everyone doing? Today's day 52 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We'll be learning Siman Vav Seif. Let's begin. Let's say somebody makes a bracha on water. And then he heard that there was a dead person in the neighborhood. Right? And they had a minhag that they would pour out water that was in the neighborhood of a dead person. Because they felt there was a danger in drinking that water. Okay. Nevertheless, since he did make a bracha, he has to drink a little bit, in order that his bracha doesn't become a bracha levatala. He shouldn't be worried for danger, because anybody who's doing a mitzvah, he will see no evil. So he drinks a little and he pours out the rest. Okay, so the kids are saying a major idea. What's the idea? That once somebody says a bracha on food, he's forced to go and now eat that food to make sure his bracha doesn't become a bracha levatala. Right, and this actually comes from a Ramah in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph. The Ramah's case is as follows. It talks about a guy, he comes home, Motzei Shabbos, and obviously when you come home Motzei Shabbos, you have to make Havdalah. But this guy, he forgot to make Havdalah. He took out bread, he made hamotzi, and before he ate the bread, he realized that he did not make Havdalah. So, this guy has two options. Either he could eat the bread, but then he's going to be eating before Havdalah, which is an Issur D'Rabbanan, or we'll say, okay, don't eat the bread, and just make Havdalah, and it turns out your hamotzi will be levatala. So what do we tell this guy to do? So the Ramah says, okay, we tell this guy to eat the bread, we don't want him to say a bracha levatala, and okay, he ate before Havdalah. Okay, we'll have to live with it. Does everyone agree with this Ramah? So, let's quote a Ritva. The Ritva says as follows. He talks about a guy who wants to eat a bread meal, right? Not Motzei Shabbos, a normal day wants to eat a bread meal. So what do you do before a bread meal? You wash your hands. You say a bracha on Tiyas Yadayim. And let's say after you wash your hands, after you say it on Tiyas Yadayim, you decided you actually don't want to eat a bread meal. So what would you tell this guy to do? You'd probably tell him, like, sorry, you have to go eat bread. But the Ritva says no. The Ritva says, since at the time you washed your hands and you made the bracha, you had in mind to eat bread, you wanted to eat bread, right? That's good enough. Right, even if you don't end up eating bread, the bracha wasn't a bracha levatala, you're good to go. So seemingly the Ritva would argue with this halacha of the Ramah. Right, the Ramah said if you say hamotzi, we can't let that be levatala. You have to eat the bread. But the Ritva says no. As long as you had in mind during the bracha that you were going to go and use that bracha for something, even if you don't, that's going to be okay. Does everyone agree with this Ritva? Probably not. There's a Rashba. The Rashba has a tshuva. He has a very sodasik tshuva, and he asks, when somebody gives tzedakah, why doesn't he say a bracha? Right? Whenever you do a mitzvah, you say a bracha. Tzedakah is a mitzvah. Why don't you say a bracha? So the Rashba says that the reason you don't make a bracha when you give tzedakah is because tzedakah isn't just dependent on you, the person giving it. It's dependent on the receiver as well. It's dependent on the other person. So there's a strong concern that maybe the other person won't want to accept the tzedakah. So therefore, we're afraid your mitzvah won't come to fruition. Right? Your mitzvah is only done once you receive it. So we don't let you say a Berachas mitzvah. No, we don't let you say a bracha, since the mitzvah might not come to fruition. Right, and this seemingly doesn't fit with the Ritva. The Ritva just says, like, right, by Netilas Yadayim, he says, like, even though the mitzvah is not going to come to fruition, right, it's not going to, your Netilas Yadayim was really meaningless if you didn't eat any bread. So therefore, the Rashba would probably disagree with the Ritva. Okay. But even in the opinion of the Ritva, who says when somebody washes and makes an Netilas Yadayim, he doesn't have to actually eat bread, maybe he would still agree with the Ramah. Because there's a fundamental difference between the case of the Ritva and the case of the Ramah. The case of the Ritva is as follows. He washes his hands, he makes it on the Netilas Yadayim, and then he's like, okay, I don't want to eat bread. The Ritva says that's fine. Maybe why does he say that's fine? But what has this guy done wrong? He washed his hands, he said a bracha for washing his hands. That's okay, like, nothing wrong with that. But once he makes hamotzi, maybe, once he says hamotzi lechem min aretz, then he's praising Hashem for bread. Maybe then we force him to eat bread. So it could be that even the Ritva would agree with the Ramah, because the Ramah is not talking about a case of just washing your hands, it's talking about a case where you actually said hamotzi. And maybe once you say hamotzi, you're saying a bracha on the bread actually, so you actually have to actually go and eat the bread. But, in all truth, there is somebody who disagrees with the Ramah, and that's the Magen Avraham quoting the Ritva. The Magen Avraham quotes the Ritva who says, let's think about this guy. It's Motzei Shabbos, he didn't make Havdalah, he eats bread. He's about to eat bread, he didn't eat it yet. So, there's an Issur to eat before Havdalah, right? So this guy, we'd rather him say a bracha levatala, seemingly. We'd rather for him to say a bracha levatala, right? He's going to say hamotzi, he's not going to eat the bread. But we say that's fine. Tell this guy to make havdalah, and his hamotzi will be meaningless. Okay. So we have a little machlokas here between the Ramah and the Magen Avraham. But can we get an understanding of this machlokas? What's this machlokas based off of? So if you look in the Shalos Teshuvas Shevetz Over, he explains the machlokas as follows. But before we learn that, we have to give a little bit of an introduction. As we maybe asked yesterday, as we said yesterday, is that it shouldn't be so bad to say a bracha for no purpose, right? Because one of the reasons you're allowed to say Hashem's name is if you're praising Him, right? So maybe if you're praising Hashem and you don't end, right, you say hamotzi lachameres, you don't end up eating bread. What's so bad? You praise Hashem. Right, so we quoted the Chachma Shlomo who says, because it looks like you're kind of making a joke out of everything, like you're praising Hashem for bread, you're not eating bread. That's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem even on the Doraisa level. But think about this guy. This guy wants to eat bread, right? He has the bread in front of him. He wants to eat bread. Just halacha doesn't allow him because he has to make havdalah first. So, seemingly, right, this would actually not be a Isur Doraisa. This would probably be an Isur Dorabanan. But if he doesn't end up going eating the bread, it would probably only be an Isur Durabanan. Okay. So now with that Hakdama, now we can understand what the Ramah and the Magen Avraham are disagreeing about. Right, the Ramah says, let's think about it. There's a problem of making hamotzi and not eating bread, but that's only going to be a problem Durabanan. There's a problem, you're not allowed to eat before Havdalah. That's for sure only a Isur Durabanan. So, what do we tell this guy to do? Right, let's take like a drastic case. Let's say he makes hamotzi lechem haaretz and he remembers, he's like, oh man, it's Yom Kippur. It's Yom Kippur. So what are we going to tell this guy to do? We're not going to tell this guy to eat on Yom Kippur. That's a full-blown Isur D'Oraisa, no way around that. So obviously, even the Ramah would agree, we're going to tell this guy to eat the bread, which is only, we're going to tell this guy to not eat the bread. It's Yom Kippur. We're not going to tell him to eat the bread, and he'll be over on the Isur D'Orabanan of saying this bracha for no purpose. But let's take this case of Havdalah, right? Eating before Havdalah is only an Isur D'Orabanan. So the Ramah is going to say, we're always going to do the least Isur, right? So the Ramah says the least Isur is eating before Havdalah. That's a little lower level of Isur. Saying a bracha for no purpose, even though it's in the way of praising Hashem, that's still going to be a stronger Isur. That's what the Ramah says. We have to weigh the Isur and we have to see which one's stronger. So why does the Magen Avraham disagree with that? Why does the Magen Avraham say you shouldn't eat the bread? So the reason for that is because the Magen Avraham holds, when it comes to two Durabanans, we always say, Sheif al Taiseh. We always say, we don't know what to do. Either you're over on this Durabanan of eating before Havdalah, you're over on this Durabanan of making hamotzi and not eating bread. We say, Sheif al Taiseh, just throw your hands back and don't do anything. So that's what the Magen Avraham would tell this guy to do. Don't do anything. Okay, let's bring down this Machlokas Ramah and Magen Avraham maybe to a different case. Let's talk about a fast day other than Yom Kippur. Right, for example, any fast day other than Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is only D'Oraisa fast day, so let's bring it down to another fast day. So let's say, it's a random fast day, let's say it's Tisha B'Av, he makes hamotzi. What do we tell this guy to do? So do we tell this guy to eat a little bit of bread, or do we say, you don't do anything? So, if you look in the Seif Mishana Halachos, he wants to say it's the same machlokas. He wants to say, the Ramah would probably say, you do less of an Isur. So he would probably say, just like he says you eat before Havdalah, so too you'd probably eat the bread on Tisha B'Av. But the Magen Avraham would say, no, we always say Sheif al Taiseh, to throw up your hands and don't do anything. However, the Mishana Halachos says no. The Mishana Halachos says that it's the worst of an Isur to eat on Tisha B'Av than to say a bracha and it won't come to fruition. Why? Well, what's the difference? Because when it comes to eating before Havdalah, since it's in our hands to make Havdalah, that makes the Isur less, right? Since it's in our hands to make the Havdalah, that's actually going to make the Isur to eat before Havdalah less. However, when it comes to a fast day, it's not in our hands to end the fast day. It's not in our hands. That actually makes the Isur stronger. And if you look at most of that, at least the Ashkenazi poskim, they all agree with that, and they say that one actually should not eat on a fast day, even if he makes a bracha. If you look at Rav Adia says you do eat, but okay. That's about a real din. What about other dinim, other less strict dinim? For example, right, most people have a minhag that after they eat meat, before they eat milk, they wait 6 hours. So let's say you ate meat. Let's say it's a few hours later, and you take a cup of milk. You make shahakol. What do you do now? Should you drink the milk, or should you allow yourself to say the bracha that was not necessary? So let's think about it, like what we've been thinking about. According to the Ramah, you do less of an isser, right? So he'd probably say you should eat the milk. You should drink the milk. Why? Because this whole idea of waiting 6 hours, that's not a real ikar din, right? That's really just a minhag. If you look in the Ramah says me'ikar din, you only have to wait 1 hour after you eat meat. Therefore, maybe if it's within the hour, then even the Ramah would say that you don't drink the milk. But once it's after 1 hour, most of the poskim say that you actually should drink the milk. And even the Magen Avram, right? The Magen Avram says we say Shev al Taisa, right? But probably even the Magen Avram would agree that if it's after 1 hour and now it's only at a status of a minhag to not drink milk, he would agree that this Derabanan idea of making your bracha go on something would actually be more important than waiting the 6 hours.